Hey there, this is the LEGO Star Wars Desert Skiff and Sarlacc Pit set. It is a set that commemorates the 25 years of LEGO Star Wars, and it includes this exclusive Num minifigure in addition to these ones shown here. So that's a very exciting selection to get, and it's one of the main selling points of this set. But the builds look pretty interesting as well, with this Sarlacc Pit right here, as well as this skiff. So this set did cost me $100 Canadian, and I believe the price in the US is $80 US, which feels a bit overpriced, but maybe the set is worth the hype. Maybe after building the set we'll find that it's completely justified, but there's only one way to find out. So in this set we got 6 numbered bags from 1 to 6, 2 instruction manuals, plus these flexible 2 pieces that are not part of any bag. Now let's see here. This first instruction manual contains a QR code, and it explains how to use the supplied orange brick separator, so we will get one of those in this set. It just says open bag 1, build Boba Fett, and it doesn't really tell you what it is that you're building, so to me that's a fail. Like, just tell me, are we building this, or what's going on here? Okay, so just by looking at the end, we see that this is going to build the Sarlacc Pit. And so this is going to build the Desert Skiff, the second instruction manual. And I believe the idea behind dividing this into 2 manuals is so that one person can build this and the other person can build this other build at the same time to be more efficient. So I do think that's a smart idea for people who do use the instructions, instead of having to flip between the pages all the time. Because this could have been 2 separate sets that were sold for half the price, but I think LEGO combined them together for a good reason. But it's good to have 2 instruction manuals. So yeah, with that being said, I will not be using the instructions. I will only be using the LEGO 3D view and the building phases. Alright, let's get started with bag 1. Bag 1 builds the base of the Sarlacc Pit, including the eventual mechanism to move these things here. We also get Boba Fett, and we'll look at all the minifigures at the end, as well as this orange brick separator. Bag 2 continues building the Sarlacc Pit. We add some details, including these very scary teeth. Kind of tedious to put them all together, but it looks nice when all is put together. We also have like some of the interior done here in medium nougat, so that looks pretty scary as well. But more to come. We also get the Lando Calrissian minifigure. So bag 3 gives us Luke Skywalker, as well as finishing up some of the details on the side of the Sarlacc Pit. It's getting covered up quite nicely. Bag 4 finishes up the Sarlacc Pit, right here along the front. Now it's smooth all over, and we'll look at this at the end, but there's a play feature, and this thing opens and closes. But for now, we'll set all of this aside and build the Desert Skiff. Oh, also bag 4 comes with Han Solo. So bag 5 builds the bottom part of the skiff. It's done in a pretty unusual way, especially around here. I'm not quite sure why it was done this way, but it was an interesting build experience nonetheless. Pretty challenging, a lot more than I initially thought. I improvised a little bit here because I'm building this without the instructions, and so I ended up with these extra pieces here, and these are the standard extra pieces that you would get for bag 5. And I also use one of these in this bag, these flexible tubes, and the other one will be using it in bag 6. Actually, while looking at the final model, I realized that I built this wrong, so let me go and fix that. So my mistake was basically here. So this thing is supposed to be movable. You push here, and then this tile comes out, just like what we see on the box. But I did not realize this while I was building bag 5, so I had fixed this tile in place. So I had to go back and rebuild that. I did that offline just while my device was charging. Now this seems to not want to stay in place anymore. So, and also in bag 5, we do get handcuffs for Chewie, unfortunately for him. Alright, we're finally done with the build. These are the extra pieces that I have at the end of bag 6. This one I'm not so sure if it's supposed to be an extra. Now let's check out the figures in the order that we built them. So here we have Boba Fett, Lando Calrissian, and Luke Skywalker, and they all get weapons. So they all have excellent printing on the legs and the torsos, and on the back. That is the print for Boba Fett, and he does not have an alternative expression because he has this scar that is on the back of his head, as usual. And here's a better look at the face print from the front, as well as look at Lando and Luke. And these two both get alternative expressions as well. I think all of these are excellent figures to get, and I especially like the Lando headgear. I believe it's new and we've never gotten this before. The Boba Fett here might be very familiar to you. In fact, we've already looked at it on the channel, and that's when I was reviewing the Boba Fett mech that came out last year. So let's see, spot the differences between the two. If you do find any differences between them, let me know in the comments down below, but I believe they're the same. There might be some minor print differences. And here, I'll just move the weapon out of the way. Yeah. And Luke is Luke. The next two figures are not so lucky because they're both prisoners. We have here Han Solo and Chewbacca, also known as Chewie. So Chewbacca is a well-known quantity. If you know anything about LEGO Star Wars, you would have seen this character many, many times before. In fact, this is the same guy that we've got for many, many years now. It would be nice to see something new, but I think they're going to keep using this mold for as long as they can. Underneath, there's just a standard dark brown shirt or dark brown torso without any printing. And there's no HUD underneath. This is all one piece. So really there's no point in taking this off. However, Han Solo does get an alternative expression if he ever does become freed. So it's nice that they give us this option. However, there is no leg printing or side printing for this guy. And the final figure that we build in the set is this 9 Nun. This is a special 25th anniversary LEGO Star Wars minifigure. This is a brand new head mold that has never been done before. And it's currently exclusive to the set. And I believe that the torso and legs are also exclusive. The legs are done well. The torso is done in black, but the printing here in red does not match the red found elsewhere on the body, so it's a little bit of a miss. It's not the end of the world, but I think the opacity here could have been improved. But at least the lines are crisp and well drawn. And the head here, I believe, is dual molded. And the eyes are well done. Although here, it's a little bit fuzzy around the ears. I don't know if that's very easy to see. It's a little bit better on this side. So, yeah, that's our exclusive figure. 9 Nun. I know some people say Nine or something like that, but according to the references I checked, it's actually pronounced 9. As in the number 9 because his name is a wordplay on number 9, literally. And because this is a special 25th anniversary minifigure, we get a special plaque, a special display stand for him. And here this is printed, 25 years of LEGO Star Wars, not the same as 25 years of Star Wars. We have R2-D2 projecting a brick, so pretty nice to get. It's consistent across all of these 25th anniversary sets. And here we have this additional black plate to connect it to the others. If you choose to get other sets from this sub-theme, and you can connect all of these together to make a very nice and good-looking and expensive display. So yeah, the figures in the set are excellent, and they're all real figures. Every single one of these is actually a minifigure, and not some random parts thrown together. The presentation on the box is not the same order that you build the minifigures in, so you actually build this one last, even though it's presented first. That's a minor nitpick. Alright, now let's take a look at the builds themselves. So, the main thing that you're paying for in the set, well actually, some people are going to get the set just for this minifigure, nothing else, but you do get this entire desert skiff and this Sarlacc pit. So the Sarlacc pit is what we build first, so let's take a look at that real quick. It's an involved build. It was more involved than I initially thought. It's like a big Star Wars diorama, but with more thickness to it. Like there's lots of stuff here, and this is all completely filled. It's not hollow, except for maybe some minor parts of it, but this is all lots of plastic. Whether or not that's a good idea, we can talk about that later, but I'll first present it objectively before giving my opinion. So we have here basically this mouth of this Sarlacc, which is a creature or organism found on planet Tatooine. And the idea behind it is that it has these tentacles or tendrils, and it's very, very hungry in the desert. And this whole thing is its tongue, and it tries to eat people with this. So it's supposed to be a very scary thing. And to add to the fear, you see this dark red and these teeth coming out. So very, very nasty thing. Now, the idea is that you put a minifigure in here, and then they get eaten up. And yeah, you could look at that scene. Yeah, that looks horrible. in a good way. If you know what you're doing, you can make some live action photography or stop motion animation with this set and these minifigures, and yeah, just look at that expression on his face. It just fits so perfectly here. However, these pieces which are recolored to this dark tan new for 2024 in this set. This thing, yeah, it barely fits one figure. If you want to fit more figures in here, you're gonna have to find larger pieces, but I think this is perfectly sufficient. To fit one figure in here, that's like the minimum, and it does meet that standard. I was kind of fearing it wouldn't, but we're good. This does fit a regular minifigure. Chewbacca is a little bit taller, so can it fit Chewie? I think so. Yes, it can. You have to lean it a little bit, but yeah, that works. That works. So yeah, this is excellent to get. It's a bit simplistic in its operation. You have to move these manually. I would have liked it if somehow these were controlled by this mechanism here, because we have all these pieces lined up on this axle just to move these two. It would have been nice to move this as well. Of course, it would need to not use these clips. It would need to use something else, but I'm sure they could have figured out a way to do it. I'll just point out while I'm here at the back that we do see a little bit of lime green over here. You see here a little bit of blue peeking from underneath. This is intentional. If you look at LEGO's 3D view, you will see these off colors. And they do this just to make the set easier to build by kids and adults. But I just wish they would not have used these off colors here at the edges. If you use them inside the build where they're not visible at the end, I have no issue with that. And it's actually nice to get pieces in extra colors for mocks and custom creations and things like that. But on the exterior, I think this is a no. This should have been tan or dark tan. I don't want to see that green peeking out. For here, it's like a medium nougat peeking out from the tan. This does not bother me, but this does, because this just seems a little bit unnatural. Maybe you can think of it as some kind of nuclear thing or radiation, but you'd have to stretch your imagination a little bit for that. So yeah, this thing is pretty bulky. I think bulkier than it needs to be. It takes up a lot of the parts budget for the set. We'll talk about the budget of the set overall in a moment. But yeah, this does take up a lot of weight and a lot of heft. And it's either you like it or you don't. I'm personally fine with it. I don't have any issue with the thing itself. I just wish it was a little bit smaller so that the set's price could be reduced. And before I take this away, I'll point out that we can angle these in various ways to suit your preferences. So these can be moved, and these can be moved on these pins right here. So there is some posing capability for this thing. It's not completely fixed in place, so you don't have to make it exactly like what is shown on the box. Alright, so that's the Sarlacc pit, or at least the top part of it, because in universe this thing goes on and on and on all the way down, but building that in LEGO would be very cost prohibitive and would probably be an ultimate collector series that not that many people would buy, if I'm guessing. So we'll just set this aside for now and bring in the skiff. I just knocked over this piece. Some of these pieces are easy to knock over. So when I was building the skiff, I missed out on the action feature when I was first putting it together, and that is this. So over here, there's this button, we push it, and then something happens. What happens is basically this plate gets extended, as we can see right here on the box. And this way you can reenact the scene of Luke hanging precariously here. And yeah, we could try that. And the idea is that you want to have Luke not fall into this thing while... Ooh, sorry. Yeah, so that's a fun play feature to have, especially because it's a tile, not a plate, so there's no studs. So you can take turns, you and the other kids, to play with this and just have tons of fun with it. This thing comes apart very easily, just because there's this flexible tube that has not taken its form yet. It was originally straight and I had to bend it like so. With time, I think this will get better. So the skiff itself is very simple in its design. It does have these clear stands for display, which I really appreciate. And this is probably something that adults will appreciate more than kids. So yeah, you could just set this and it looks cool on display like this. And I think more LEGO sets, especially more LEGO Star Wars sets, should include these by default instead of having to buy these separately from Bricklink or Pick-a-Brick. On the inside, there's not much going on at the front. It's completely tiled off, so it's going to be hard to pose lots of minifigures here, like what they show on the box. So if you try to put Chewie and Han Solo in here, they're going to fall very easily. So that's a bit of a miss in my opinion. And I do think that they could have included at least a few studs here to help with play. So the alternative is that you need to rotate their hands a little bit and clip them onto this thing, but the angle does not always support it. So let's see what we can do. So we can clip this guy, I believe, from here. And with the handcuffs, it makes it a little bit more difficult. Yeah, that's not very easy. In fact, this whole thing wants to come apart. But yeah, it is doable. So yeah, the front is not very usable unless you modify this, and indeed you can. You can just remove this tile. So I'm actually not going to ding LEGO major points for this, because if you want to pose figures here, just remove the tile. But I just think that the designers should have thought of that. The front here is, like, they use some interesting pieces here, but I'm not completely convinced by the front. If you look at the source material, you see it's like very rounded here, and here it's more like a pyramid. It's more of a corner, so it's not completely accurate to the source material, but overall it's an okay attempt. It's not the end of the world, but I wish they had something more round over here. This is cool, but I wish there was a way to lock this so that if I don't want this to come out, I should have a way to like lock it in place and not have it come out all the time. Maybe an additional piece here that is easily removable could have helped in that respect. This piece of balcony is fixed, however this one is on a hinge that allows it to open, so that's pretty useful, although it does not open all the way because this piece here is blocking it, but that's not the end of the world. Here we have the controls for the skiff. So let's take just a random minifigure. I'll take a minifigure that has no weapons or handcuffs, just for simplicity. And this is what someone piloting the skiff would look like. And yeah, the controls are very appropriate. You can clip them in the minifigure hands, although this piece here is pretty easy to knock off, but also pretty easy to put back on, so not a big deal. And I like the nice part usage here. I like the use of the minifigure roller skate piece as a decorative element here and also here, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's a good look. That's a good look right there. And here we also have another piece of flexible tubing. Here's where the minifigure would stand. And here we have a table or a bench that is a useful detail as well. And finally, we have these adjustable, I don't know if these are called sails or what they would be called in the Star Wars lore. I'm not a skiff specialist, but these are nice components to get. So they're ratcheted, so you could angle them up and down. And there's a pin that allows for rotation. And whatever happens here is the same on the other side because they're completely mirrored. And I like the use of the Ninjago or East Asian hat here that is used in dark tan as a bit of a detail. It looks quite accurate compared to the source material, so this is nice to get, and especially the fact that you get two of them in this set. So yeah, I think this is okay. It has some strong parts and some less strong parts, and of course according to my own opinion, and you can have your own opinion that's different from mine. And yeah, we already talked about the Sarlacc pit. Now let's do a little bit of play scene. Of course, when playing with this thing, you can remove these transparent parts if you want, and I would recommend not grabbing the set from here because it's going to fall apart. So I just put all the minifigures in the skiff, and yes, all of them do fit. You could fit maybe a couple more minifigures here comfortably, and then you're going to have to start squeezing them in. And as I said, it's possible to clip a minifigure here. And so now Chewbacca needs to walk the plank, and I'm going to pretend that there's someone else that's doing this with the Sarlacc pit to make it look scary. And let's see, will Chewbacca survive walking the plank? So basically I'll fly the skiff over, and Chewbacca needs to stay alive. Oh no, he fell inside. You can play with this thing, and it's a great amount of fun. In addition to being a good display set that will pair well with a Jabba sail barge if they ever come up with an Ultimate Collector series of that. I've heard rumors that might come out this year or next year, so that would be an interesting addition, and this would pair well with it. It would be a nice companion set. But it would also feel like a lot of DLC, because this feels like it could be a side build of an Ultimate Collector series set. This one is a bit more involved to be considered a side build, but still, they could have done it smaller with less parts. And that brings us to the conversation about price and value. Is this set worth $80 US or $100 Canadian? The short answer, if you don't want to listen to me ramble, is no, it's not worth that amount. And I'd like to explain why I think that. So first of all, there are the people who say, oh, it's a Lego set, it's just plastic, it should cost $10. I think that's ridiculous. It does cost a lot of money to make individual pieces, and there's specialized pieces, there's these prints, and then there's minifigures, and some of them, this one in particular has a special mold, this one has a new piece as well, and they're all printed very well, especially Boba Fett. So all this does cost money. Like, this is not a $5 set or a $10 set. I completely understand that. But that doesn't mean it should be an $80 set US. Let's do a thought exercise and see how much each of these things would cost. I'm going to ignore the brick separator and this thing here. Yes, this is a nice print, but I know that Lego can make this piece for less than $1. And in fact, you can buy various printed pieces from Lego.com and Bricklink for a few cents. Like, this could be 50 cents. So these are not going to even factor into the calculation. Now, the Sarlacc pit. So of course they could have made this smaller and cheaper, but for what you get here, this is using maybe 2/3 of the regular pieces of the set, or at least that's the way it feels to me, and the pieces used here are larger and bulkier. So this thing here, if it was sold on its own, let's think about the price of it without the minifigures. Well, $20 would probably be too cheap for this. Like, think about these Star Wars dioramas that they have. So let's say $30. $40 is pushing it. For like, it's a heavy amount of plastic, but let's say $40 just for argument's sake. This thing costs $40 US or $50 Canadian, which I would not want to pay. I think that's overpriced, but let's just go with it for the sake of argument. You have all these pieces here, you have these two large new pieces, etc. $40 for this thing, and that would include, let's say, 3 minifigs. I think this plus 3 minifigs for $40. We'll just visualize them by throwing them into the Sarlacc pit. Sorry guys. So just taking 3 random minifigs. This to me, $40, okay, I can live with that. Now, that leaves us with this skiff. This is basically some plates, a few large pieces, but it's basically just a few plates stacked on top of each other. Yes, you have the flexible tubes, but these don't cost $1 million either. Yes, you have a little bit of stuff here, a little bit of stuff here, but this is like, this and this together are like a Ninjago poly bag. You got all these pieces in a Ninjago poly bag, and they don't charge you a lot for it. So this, on its own, I would say, like, if I think about a regular Star Wars playset, or a Ninjago playset, or a Marvel playset, although Marvel can be very overpriced, just these pieces alone, I'd say $15, and then when you add the minifigures, $20, $25 tops. So even when you max things out, I would say like 40, 25, and I do think that is already overpriced. We're talking about $65, and that's with the Star Wars tax, with all the licensing, etc. However, it costs $80 US. So I would like this to be $65 US, $80 Canadian, and not $80 US, 100 Canadian. I just think this set needs a massive discount. If you can get it on discount on Black Friday or next year's May the 4th promo, I think you'll get a much better deal. Notice how I did not mention anything about the price to piece ratio, because not all parts are created equal. This piece right here, this very simple piece, cannot be valued at the same rate as printed exclusive minifigure head, for example. Like this is obviously worth a lot more than this. There's lots of large pieces here, and they do have a certain amount of value. There's printed pieces. Again, I don't put too much value on this, but this is worth a lot more than just this piece that I'm just picking on because it's an easy example. So yeah, I think this is a good set. It has some shortcomings. I would like for it to be cheaper. I'd like for it to be 65 US max. I would love if it was $50 US. That's maybe too greedy of me. I would love if this was like $50, $60 US. That's, I think, a very fair and reasonable price. Like if they charged us 50 US, 65 Canadian for this, I'll be like, this is an excellent deal. This is an amazing deal. Go get this set. Maybe get multiple copies so that you can make lots of other things with these pieces, because there are lots of useful pieces here. But at the price that they're currently selling this at, I cannot recommend it. If you really, really need this minifigure and you need him now, then just get him on Bricklink. Get just the minifigure alone. Try not to get it from a scalper who's going to charge too much for it, but I haven't looked at the prices as of the recording of this video, but I don't think this minifigure is going to be extremely expensive, especially because this set is still in production. After this set retires, then yeah, this guy is very likely to go up in value. But still, getting this from Bricklink is going to be a lot cheaper than getting the whole set entirely if you just want to collect these figures and you don't care about the set. If you do care about the set, wait for a discount, unless you need it right now, and I think you'll be happier for that. Oh, and just before we wrap up, I would like to do a size comparison with the other Star Wars set that I recently reviewed. So this is the Jedi Bob Starfighter, and this one costs $40 US or $50 Canadian, and just look at the difference. By the way, here's the same piece. This is the same piece as this, just in different colors. So this thing here, it feels a lot more substantial. Yes, from the underside it's not that complete, but you do feel like you have a nice swooshable, playable build right here. And this feels better to play with than the Skiff. It also has these stud shooters, so it's better for play. And it looks very subjective, but I personally much prefer the look of this one than this, although this one has its place too in the Star Wars official canon, so that cannot be ignored. But still, this versus this, like, they're basically charging us like $40 for this, $40 for this, according to LEGO, and then $40 for this, and to me, like, there's just no comparison. So that just goes to show how much this is overpriced. And even this is like, this could use a discount in of itself, but this is ridiculous. So yeah, like in terms of value, you get much more value from this set here, and I think the other Rebuild the Galaxy sets versus the 25th anniversary, I think they're overcharging for this set just because of this minifigure. If this minifigure was not there, probably the set would be $20 cheaper. I might be exaggerating, but not by much. Alright everyone, thanks for tuning in to Versatile Fun Designs. Please make sure to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.